EP66. Collectively, we are the Mind of Men. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and for all my YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe. And welcome to another Black Friday. Okay, fellas. So, man, I was at the Cigar Lounge about a week ago, and I was having a serious discussion with a lot of the gentlemen in there as we was enjoying our cigars, man. And we were talking about today's youth. And as I listened to their opinions about how they felt about today's youth, I thought to myself, man, now I wasn't in agreement with all of their opinions, but I thought to myself, man, there are a lot of black men out here that's all talk and no action. Now I know in the past, y'all, we've discussed some things about today's youth or whatever, but after hearing the discussion in the Cigar Lounge, it made me want to go back and revisit this topic again, about today's black youth, particularly young black males between the ages of 10 and 25. And also the adults between the ages of 30 years old and up. Mm-hmm. Now, before we get into today's story, right, or topic, I want to share a story with you guys that y'all may be familiar with. And y'all may recall back in March, on March the 14th of this year, there were 3 juveniles, ages 11, 12, and 16. They robbed a Wells Fargo on the north side of Houston. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, now the boys, those youths, they put a threatening note to the teller and asked for some money, and they fled on foot and got away with an undisclosed amount of cash. And so now the FBI, they put the footage on the news, and they showed the 3 boys. Now, one of those boys, you could tell that he wasn't black based upon the footage that they showed, but the other 2, you could tell that they were black. And so the media dubbed them as the Little Rascals. And so I guess their grandparents or mom or whomever turned the 2 boys in. And so they were actually charged locally with robbery by threat. So that proposed a question for me. And I want to ask y'all. Do it seem like black male youths today are more of a menace to society than our generation?
Most definitely, man. I definitely think that they are. One reason I would say so is because they don't fight nowadays. They're quick to shoot, and they have more access to guns than our generation did. So they're being careless with these guns, and like I said, they're just wilding out. So I definitely think that this generation is wilding out a lot more than we did back in our day.
Yeah, I agree. They wilding out more in a sense than we are, and when you say they getting, they got more access to guns more than we did.
Right.
But they are worse than us. But we was bad. We was tough, but not like this. You know what I mean? So they're worse. And you mentioned the ages of 10 to 17 is what you said?
Well,
10 to 13?
10 to 25.
10 to 25.
Yeah.
Okay, they worse than us because like K Money said, man, they have access to guns, more so than what we did. So they much worse than us.
And I'm inclined to agree with Slash and K Money because think about when we were growing up. We had a show called Cops. Now what's out? A show called First 48. Remember Cops? We ain't do too much of nothing. You get drunk, loitering, or misconduct behavior. You go to jail. Hell, he's going to jail. Blah blah blah. But now, fast forward 20 years later, First 48 is the new show, right? That's the new show. So now we went from acting, our generation just acting up. Maybe a killing here and there on Cops, but not really. It wasn't really no killings on it. It was just people acting up. Mostly mostly blacks. I hate to say it. It was whites too, but it was mostly blacks. But now you graduate. Now you see killings. You just see the murders. So to me, it gradually got worse as the years progressed.
Okay.
Hence, first 48.
So let me ask y'all a question. Now, I know y'all have heard of this, but I just want to propose the question. Have y'all ever heard of the statement, "It takes a village"? And if so, what does that mean to y'all?
Yeah, so it takes a village, to me, means the neighborhood that you live in. The neighbors on your street had the right or had the ability to not necessarily chastise, but actually put you in your place as a child. You know, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Don't do this. Don't come over here with this. I'm going to tell your parents what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And you know this ain't right. Mm-hmm. Or even had the ability to spank the child.
I often say, yeah.
That's what the village.
That's the village. And that's missing.
In my sensibility means, wherever you live, you know, the adults have the right to, you know, put the kids in their place.
Exactly. And to touch on what Slash is saying, when I was growing up, there wasn't no discipline with that. You better stop. No, it's my neighbor could whoop me. My aunt could whoop me. My cousin could whoop me. Anybody in the family or neighbor could whoop me. Now, what I knew is I would stay away from everybody because if my mama whooped me first, I'm good. That's the only whooping I'm getting. Neighbor can't nobody get, and you ain't finna trump mama. But if a neighbor or a sister or brother, I got 4 whoopings coming because my mom gonna whoop me when she get home too.
Right.
So yeah, that's a village because my aunts, neighbors, relatives, friends kept us in line when we were younger.
I agree with Comedian 96 and Slash. You know, pretty much any adult that you interact with on a consistent basis is part of that village that, you know, plays a role in your home training and how you're growing to be a young adult.
So that's interesting because I asked that same question to one of the gentlemen at the cigar lounge. And the example that he gave was pretty much along the lines of what you guys have just said. And so he was like, well, you know, my village is, you know, I have my boys. And if me and my boys, we go do something, I tell them, hey, you know, you can bring a friend or bring one of your friends or whatever, and I'll take them with us. Mm-hmm. That's my little village. So y'all definition of what y'all
was slightly
said,
different.
Yeah, it was slightly different, but kind of lined up. Bottom line is someone you know, someone in your community, right? I questioned him and said that, so if it was a total stranger, and that I ain't talking about disciplining your child as far as putting their hands on your child, but if it's a total stranger that your child, let's say, is outside using profanity, and there's a total stranger that you don't know, nobody knows, but black, and say, hey, young man, you need to watch your mouth in front of these young ladies or in front of these elders or in front of me. Hey, you need to watch your mouth in front of your elders, man.
Right.
To me, that person was also a part of the village. Right. Meaning the village is the actual black community as a whole.
Exactly.
So the village could be in California. The village could be in New York.
Wherever.
Wherever. This, you black, you're a part of the village. Right. So with that being said, I said that to, you know, the gentleman at the lounge. And then I asked a question to them, but I answered it first. And I said, hey, so if there were 2 youngsters outside the cigar lounge right now, and you walked out and they was using profanity, just cursing, and there was some old ladies outside, and these youngsters was like 16, 17 years old, and they just cursing up a storm, and these elderly old ladies were outside. Would you go to those youngsters and tell those youngsters, hey, you need to watch your tone in front of these older ladies? Then before he could answer, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't walk up to those youngsters and say that.
I would.
And so He was like, "Nah, I won't walk up to him either. I ain't walking up to him either." And when he said that, I say, "You see, we are the problem.
Part of the problem.
I agree.
Part of
Yeah.
the problem because back in the day, the elders could come and tell us when we wrong and we need to straighten up. Even if it was some strangers, they can come and say, "Hey, you need to watch your tongue, man."
And you knew what you was doing wasn't right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
exactly.
can come tell us that. But now we afraid because these youngsters packing pistols and
Yeah.
doing stuff. But here's the thing: our generation was packing pistols too.
Yeah, but the respect level that was given to the adults when we were kids versus the respect that's being given nowadays is totally different. These kids have no respect whatsoever for adults.
And I think that's because the village now, it's not like the village. See, the villagers now, when we came from a village, these people were upstanding, law-abiding citizens. The villagers now are not upstanding, law-abiding citizens.
They're partying with the.
They partying with the young people. They doing drugs with the young people. They smoking weed.
And
with
that's where the respect is being lost.
Right. So they allowing the villagers now are the problem.
Correct.
So you might not want to be in the village. You might want to take your kids out the village now.
Yeah, the dynamic
so
of the
check it
village
out.
has changed.
We are the villagers.
And like you said, we part of the problem.
We are. Exactly.
You know, and what the guy said when he said my village, I think now we need to transpire from everything over there to my village, because you can't let your child free in the village when you got a village full of pedophiles.
Exactly.
What do you expect your child to be if the villagers are pedophiles and drug dealers and drug addicts and all of that? You know what I mean?
That's a good point. I mean, because these type of people were around when we were little as well.
But we
And
we knew better.
Well, not necessarily in all occasions. I mean, because I know, and I'm sure you guys can relate, as you've gotten older, you've heard about something that may have occurred when you were a child, and it didn't make sense to you when you were a child, but now that you're grown, you can see the picture a lot clearer that, you know, this person was could have been a pedophile, but they were still part of your village.
Right.
You know,
Right.
But now, more so nowadays, we can identify these people and weed them out, whereas it wasn't done back in the day, but they weren't that harmful. Well, they were harmful to some, because you hear now more about boys being molested nowadays than we did here back in our day. So, you know, unfortunately, I mean, our village may have consisted of some people that weren't law-abiding citizens, is where I'm going with this here, but we were still able to trust them to a certain extent, I think.
It wasn't as many back then
I
as
agree.
it is now.
I agree.
Yeah. And
Per
to,
se.
Yeah. To go back to your thing about would you approach the guys and try to correct them and discipline them, I'm with you. This day and time, I wouldn't. Now, I got a true story about daughter's mother, right? This is a few years back. We were at the grocery store, right? And, you know, I had my daughter. I was picking my daughter up. I was going to grab some stuff. She was helping me tell me what my daughter likes. My daughter kind of picky. So we're in the grocery store, and there was a baby in the basket. Not my baby, just somebody else random baby. Now, I don't know, out of all the peoples at this store, why she chose this particular baby was being bad. We didn't know them. But the dude was huge. It was a husband and wife. He was about your size, K-Money. So she had the galls to go to that baby. Be quiet. Sit down in the basket. You see and the baby be quiet. But the dude looked directly at me. Remember, he's your size. I was like, oh no. The dude just started laughing. He started laughing. But I said that I think that it's still okay for the women to discipline. Because really, a dude ain't just finna jump on no woman.
Well, just depends.
You get what I'm saying?
It depends, man, because some of these youngsters, man, again, they don't have no morals. They don't have no common sense, number one. And they don't have respect for nobody. And it's best for us at our age to not say nothing to them youngsters, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they not afraid.
Yeah. But think about it. They're not just gonna tee off on a woman.
Shit.
Man.
Not cold cock a woman for telling your son or daughter to be quiet in their
These
basket.
youngsters have no fear.
Man,
They don't,
I
bro.
seen, you can probably seen this too.
Yeah.
I seen this youngster on the news. He was jugging.
drug a motherfucking female.
And I seen them pick up this lady and body slam her, and now that lady paralyzed.
Yeah. This was this year.
That was the one they robbed. The one she got robbed.
He was jugging.
Yeah. I saw that.
Man, I'm gonna share a story with y'all, man. About 10 years ago, right? Now, I don't know what came over me, man. Well, I do know what came over me. So I was driving, and some kids was getting out of middle school, and it was two boys that was fighting. They were in middle school. Now these boys, they looked like they were some big youngsters, middle school, but they was fighting. Mm-hmm. So they were they was in the street, and I'm coming down the street slow at school. So I'm watching, I see what's going on, but I can see some adults walking too. But these boys are fighting. And man, sometimes I will say I get sometimes I get sparked. And I got to be careful because sometimes I can't control when I get sparked, and I really can't. When something needs to be, somebody needs to step up and do something. I don't want to say it's a bad habit, but I got a habit of, in some cases, standing up for what's right.
All right.
And I know that sometimes they can get me in trouble or get people in trouble. Mm-hmm. So I seen these youngsters. It's about 10 years ago. I seen these youngsters fighting. So I opened up my car and was like, "Y'all cut that shit out. Stop all that goddamn fighting." And so I walked over to him, and you go get your butt on, and you get the hell away from, stop all that goddamn fighting. Yeah. And they were walking, and one of the other kids in the crowd, he wasn't even fighting.
He yelled out some shit.
He said, "Get your old ass back in the car." And so it pissed me off.
Yeah.
But I just yelled out. It caught me off guard, pissed me off. I just yelled out, "I'm going to go tell your goddamn mama." I don't know that boy mama nothing.
But you got your ass back in the car.
Yeah, I did.
Because now
I said, "I'm going to go tell your mama."
It's a whole different fight now.
But my point, you're right, Slash. Mm-hmm. But my point is saying, man, I got a while. There was a fire that made me, man, because I watched other adults was just walking by,
Not saying
nothing. These kids fighting, man.
Yeah.
Y'all stop this shit.
Yeah.
I got a question, man. Y'all said earlier how we with us being the villagers now, and we're part of the problem. What's the solution, knowing what we're facing? If we did step up, like you just mentioned, what you did 10 years ago, Freddie G. What's the solution, and how can we step up when we know what the possible repercussions could be in stepping up?
I think that, okay, so here's what I believe. I believe that the village is fucked up. Mm-hmm. And I believe that K-Money, if you stood up right now and said, "Hey, man, let's make a pact, and we're going to start stepping up and standing in the gap for these young black men, these young black boys," I feel confident in saying, "You know what? Yeah, let's do that. But here's the thing. It's just 4 of us. Mm-hmm. Can we get 4 more? And can we get 4? And can they get 4 more?
And
can they get 4 more?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes it difficult. And so the solution to it, first of all, we can't be scared.
Number one.
Mm-hmm. We can't be afraid. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between our generation and the generation that raised us. They wasn't afraid to tell us.
No,
to check us.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not afraid to tell them. I'm afraid what I might have to do because I told them. You know what I mean? And when I say that, it's because if I get out the car like you did and tell this kid, "Hey, man, y'all stop fighting, take that shit home, go home with that shit," and one of them pull a gun, I'm going to have to pull mine.
Yeah.
Now I'm finna catch a case and I'm afraid of going to jail.
Right. Not only you shot a minor.
I didn't want to do this, but this is where it went because of their mentality. Mm-hmm. So that's the fear that I have because I'm afraid that I'm going to do something to them that I shouldn't be doing because they're not going to respect us coming at them in no kind of way.
So let me ask you this, Slash. And when I ask you this, I want you to think about an individual. I'm not going to say his name, but you and I both know him. and he was known for having one-hitter quitters. And
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, he was known for having one-hitter quitters
Every time.
And so he was a menace.
Yeah,
He was a menace.
he was.
Back then, we were around, and in some cases, we participated in some bull
We
crap.
was fucking up.
I want to tell you about the carnival. Remind you of the carnival.
Whoa, we fucked up.
The carnival at
We was
Astroworld.
fucking up, bro.
Yeah. So we were actually
Those people that we talking about.
Yeah.
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 We were those kids.
Yeah. And so and then that village had to deal with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they wasn't scared.
But here's a
but you guys didn't have guns, and even if
No,
y'all did,
we
y'all
didn't.
wouldn't have pointed them.
I didn't
at
have
them
a gun
though.
back then. I didn't have a gun back then.
But I'm just saying, let's just say somebody you hung with had a gun.
Yeah.
And somebody that was in the village back in the day, they didn't have that fear of this gun being pulled on them because we didn't do that type of shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If it's the same one-hitter quitter, I'm thinking about this same one-hitter quitter wanted to one-hitter quit me. But then in turn,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
saved,
yeah,
he saved,
for real?
he
Yeah,
saved
yeah.
my life downtown. He
Because
saved my life.
What happened? What did you do
I'm finna
to
tell
make
you.
him do that?
Look, I'm finna tell you why. His sister.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was in high school.
He was dating your sister?
I wasn't. We
he
were
was-
friends.
had a
We
crush.
were
dating his
friends.
sister.
He had a
No
crush.
No,
on
we
his
were
sister?
tight.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We were friends.
And see, he wasn't playing that kind of shit.
we was
Look,
yeah.
man, I don't mean to change it because we on a serious note. But, man, when you mention
I was in high
one-hitter
school.
quitter, do you know what the one-hitter quitter? I've seen the one-hitter quitter knock somebody to the ground and they bounced up. This is how hard the shit was.
Then he let me make it. I knew it was coming because he was rocking back and forth. But I kept it a buck with him, and he let me make it. I was little too. I was probably 136 pounds.
Yeah, you was smaller than him.
Oh yeah, I was going to
Because
sleep.
he was never no little bitty cat.
I told him, I said, bro, I am not sleepy.
Yeah.
So I'm just I said, look, she's my friend. And she truly was my friend, and he stopped rocking. So I knew it wasn't going to come. When he stopped rocking, you good. So
So the village, man, like you say, Freddie G, we did stuff, and the village dealt with us, but I think we grew out of it a little sooner because of the village. You know what I'm saying? We grew out. Now, when I say the villagers, because back then in those days, our high school days, our middle school days, there were crack smokers. It was big. It wasn't a small thing. Now, what I learned from was being around and seeing this type of environment. I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, even though that was in our village. You know what I mean? It was a part of our village. Crack was a big thing back then. You know, but you could actually learn something from a crack smoker if you have the right moral and mentality. You learn that this is not the shit I'm going to grow up doing. No villager had to teach me that. I saw the crackheads doing the crackhead shit.
yep, and we did more.
And I know that's not what I wanted to do. You know, so the village, the villagers, like Freddie G, you said, they dealt with us. But then I think we, as we got to higher ages, 18, 17, I think the more responsible thing came to us just from being in poverty-stricken areas. You know what I mean? And now some of these areas they poverty-stricken, and some of these kids' parents are on government assistance and stuff like that. But now, man, it's to the fact now that the kids and the parents are only 10 and 15 years apart.
Man, let me tell you.
That's a big
That's another
big
reason.
point right there.
You know,
I mean, and we said that earlier. You know how the village nowadays are they're basically putting these kids on the same level playing field with them. They partying with them, smoking with them,
doing everything.
Yeah. So again, this is where the respect is being lost from this generation versus ours.
Right.
You know.
Now, keep in mind, when we're speaking of the youth, we're talking about black males between the age of 10
And 25.
and 25.
Now I got
And then we're talking about adult black men 30 years and up, meaning that the adult black men who are 30 years and up, they're responsible. They're the village for the 10 to 25-year-olds.
Yeah. So we're responsible for their actions. We definitely are, because we end up in that age bracket. We're responsible for that. And man, we have really taken a really bad plunge on not teaching these kids the right thing to do. And I don't say, I mean, to each his own. Your own children, you're supposed to be able to know how to deal with that. And if you can't handle that, then they need a different village.
Yep.
You know, if you're going to be the head villager of your children in this village, then you need to make sure that your own kids are well understanding of responsibilities and respect for older, people.
But as a parent, being part of the village nowadays, we have to be acceptable to somebody else reprimanding our child.
And you're right.
That's another problem.
And a lot of people are not.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's another problem.
They're not. Because, not to cut you off, 96, but this is I want to say this because there has been stories of children going to school and the teacher saying something to the child that they ain't supposed to do. The damn parent come up there and get on the teacher ass.
That's what this makes me. Oh, I hate. No, I'm sorry. I dislike that so much.
But the teacher is a part of the village.
Schools are part of the village too.
That's a big part of the village. They spend more time there than at home.
Which is why corporal punishment should be brought back to schools.
Brought back to the schools.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that y'all brought school into this is good. This is good because now, when I initially was speaking of the village, I was just thinking of the black race.
Right.
And I expanded it outside of your actual local community, your black community, whether it's 3rd Ward, South Park, North Side, South Side. And I expanded to, is somebody in California part of the village? Somebody in New York is part of the village. But now that you guys brought the school dynamic into it, white teachers, are they a part of the village?
Yeah.
I think all
white
teachers,
people, white people.
Anybody in authority, whether it's a cop, a teacher, any authority, community center, all that is the village. Because those are the ones that's going to keep us in line.
So the bottom line is the village doesn't just apply to race.
No.
Yeah. The village is somebody that's willing to teach your child right from wrong and to help them grow to be a productive citizen in society.
That's the village.
Any adult that child interacts with on a day-to-day basis.
That's the village. Yeah.
The village is the people. No homo.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the people. It's everybody. The people. We the people. Like the Constitution.
Yeah.
So this is a question I want to ask you, K Money, on a Tuesday show. When you get a time, you had a good show Tuesday, man. I'll shout out to you, K Money. It's already bad. It's jumping bad. Kids are bad, and I'm gonna do both age groups. And this is a question for all y'all. With the way, if just say Trump gets in office, and his new law, you said Medicaid and food stamps and all that's going away, right? 15 to 25. Does it get worse?
Oh yeah.
Does it get worse?
For the children, 15
to 25. That's his age range. Because I'm going to go to 30 and up next. But 15 to 25, what happens? Does it get worse?
It gets worse. And I'm going to tell you why it gets worse. Because not only do those governmental supplementary deals go away, but as well as people our age and the people who's supposed to run the village, the health care is gone. So how do we show when we not even able physically fit enough to even ask these kids, what are you doing?
And that's the question I was going to say, 30 and up. I think you think we don't have no hands in it now? When it gets worse, we really going to be stepping back. So who going to give them direction?
It's going to be screwed up, man. So I mean, K Money's show spoke about the 2025 deal. And The project.
Project
I don't
2025.
think we stayed on that enough. But
Right.
this same shit we talking about right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
All that's gonna be affected even more so by that Project 2025. You know what I mean? It's sad, man. The village is gone to shit.
That's what I'm saying. Now it's like now the 30 and up can't really say nothing to these 15 and 25 because they on the way to jack. They on the way to get this money for my family. I gotta feed my family. And when you that young, you don't give a damn about nobody's life, but your own and your family. That's gonna be a big problem.
Interesting. So that brings me to today's Black Fact. Now, today's Black Fact is actually a statistic. For decades, incarceration disparities between black and white youths have remained stubbornly high. As of 2021, black youths were 4 times likely to be detained or committed to juvenile facilities than their white peers. This is according to nationwide data collected in October of 2021 and recently released. The disparities has hardly changed over the past decade. Now that's a black fact to marinate on. This concludes another dope episode of Black Friday. Tune in next week for Music Monday. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and for all my YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe.